It's time for you to cancel all of your expensive monthly API subscriptions because in this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up a private API that is almost entirely free and gives you unlimited use. This can save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars in monthly subscriptions you're probably paying for, but don't actually need. It's like the Swiss Army knife for AI automations. I've got an N8N automation I'm going to walk through to demonstrate the features of this free API so you can get an idea of how it works. Then I'll show you how to install this free toolkit and where to get this N8N template. Now let me explain this free toolkit in 15 seconds. Now you see companies like OpenAI who sell ChatGPT, they write code and they deploy that code on servers and then they allow you to use those servers, and running that code doesn't cost very much to them, but they sell it back to us at an extreme markup and they make a lot of money. And we end up having to pay for it. But it turns out a lot of this code is free and we can deploy this code into our own server and we can access our own server at the same cost that it costs them. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how to access this free code, which is right here on GitHub. It's called the No Code Architects Toolkit. And I'll show you those features by walking you through this N8N automation. All right, so let's walk through this. This isn't actually a real automation. All this is different nodes that are connected up to different features of the toolkit. Like some of the most common ones you might think of is like, how do you transcribe a video? So here is an N8N node that will do just that. So we're calling a backend API. Again, we've deployed this code in this particular case to DigitalOcean and it's running here. So you don't need to understand all of these little details, but we're basically sending this particular endpoint, which does video transcriptions or audio transcriptions, a remote file. We're asking for the transcription. We're also asking for the SRT file. And if we test this endpoint, it's going to take this video here of me on the school games, and it's going to bring back that transcript. And it's also going to bring back that SRT file that you can use for captions. You might also want to caption your videos. So this endpoint here will take that same video and it will actually put captions on that video for free. You can run that endpoint and you can see it responded back to us with a URL. I can take that and I can go ahead and play it, and you can see that it is already highlighting the active word and it has added the captions. So now I'll just continue to walk through some of these cool features. This endpoint here will actually get us a thumbnail from any point in that video. We can define what second we want to pull that thumbnail from. If you test this endpoint, simply going to respond back with an image. And here you can see that image. In this module here, we have a endpoint that will combine two videos together. Here I've got that same school clip that's going to be combined into one. So over here on the original, you can see it was 9 seconds, and over here it is 19. It just plays the same clip twice in this case. In this module here, we can actually make cuts into a video, so we can take certain segments out of the video. That particular API call works really good with this one down here in the media section, which will detect silence in a video. In this endpoint here, we can detect silence that is longer than 0.1 seconds. It returns those specific moments in the video, and then you could simply cut those out with this endpoint here. You pass in those cuts here. This endpoint here will actually cut a single video into multiple parts. So we have that school clip. In this case, you can see that it returned 2 separate files, one for each of the clips that we requested. We can also trim video if you want to remove the beginning and the ending from a particular video. And there's also a very powerful endpoint that is called FFmpeg Compose, which uses the FFmpeg tool. I really encourage you to check out FFmpeg. It's what most of these different endpoints actually use behind the scenes. It's the free code that we deployed on our server. This particular tool is very flexible and it exposes everything that this tool is able to do. Like this endpoint here, we can actually crop videos from others. So here is a YouTube video in typical horizontal format. But if we were to run this endpoint, we can actually crop out a particular section and then also scale it for a vertical video on platforms like TikTok. And then we can take a look at the vertical video that it created from the horizontal video. We can also add a logo to a video. Here's that same clip of me on the school games and a link to a logo. You can go ahead and run that. And there you have the same video, but now with my logo on the bottom left. You can also create your own tweet pics. Here I've got a thumbnail that was created from the same school games video clip and a tweet pic. I'll show you the template. So we have this tweet pic that we generated, and now we can overlay it onto this other video thumbnail. So there you can see we can overlay images on other images. You could also overlay a tweet pic on a video itself, just like this, where we have the video and now the image overlaid. You can even build those reaction style videos where one person is reacting to another video. We'll test this out. In this case, it's taking the video that we're reacting to and then the video where we actually react to it, and it's going to assemble a final video that looks similar to the ones you've seen online, where one person is sitting here watching this other video and then they respond. And then here's that example output. I'm actually watching my own video in this case on the school games. And then here's an example of where you can overlay some text on a template certificate. So we have this certificate that we use inside of our community, the No Code Architects. And when someone finishes a level on one of our courses, we give them that certificate. And so we can actually process that here. And then you can see here, we fill in the member information with the instructor and the date. We can also add in the logo. There's other things you can do as well that are more self-explanatory, like you can convert any audio or video into an MP3. We already showed you the transcribe function and the detect silence function for using with the cuts or something else. You can also download videos off of platforms like TikTok or Instagram. Here I have my own TikTok link here. I'm going to go ahead and run the endpoint. It's also going to download the thumbnail. And what's cool here is you can always look at your server and the logs, and you can see what it's doing and how it's responding to all of your requests. It gives you a bunch of information about the video, including the description, the thumbnails. It'll actually give you the view count as well. And then you can look at the video. There it is. It's actually one of my YouTube videos that I turned into a TikTok. And you can notice as well, it doesn't have the TikTok watermark. You can also convert any type of file to another type. If you want to convert an MP4 to a .mov or some type of audio into any other type of audio, it will allow you to do that. You can also get the metadata for any video. So if I run that on that clip of me at the school games, here we can see the bitrate, the audio channels, the audio sampling rate, the duration, the file size, the format, frames per second, whether it has audio and video, the height, obviously the width, the resolution, everything that you could ever want about any given type of media. And you can do the same for audio. You can also convert images into video. This is cool when you want some slight automation and you want to turn your image into a video and get that slight zoom in effect like Ken Burns. Here you can see an image that I generated with AI, and then I gave it that slight zoom in effect. You can also run Python code, and you can also upload files to different cloud providers. You can also combine audio like we did with video. And now that I've shown you a bunch of the different features, which are pretty much unlimited with this FFmpeg Compose, I want to show you how the toolkit actually works. So far, I've been showing you how to execute the automations inline, where when the automation runs, it runs and it takes a few seconds to process, and then it will respond, and then you can use it in the next node. There are also two different ways that you can use the toolkit other than the inline method that we just showed you, which can sometimes be problematic if the process is going to take much longer because it's a much longer video. Maybe it's a 45-minute video that you're processing. It's going to take longer. So another way that you can use the toolkit is with webhooks. Here I've got another N8N automation sitting here waiting, and it's simply got a webhook. So I can go ahead and test that webhook and come back here. And now I've set up this particular node that is combining two pieces of audio. When it's done, it's going to send that request back to this specific webhook URL, which is this webhook here. So we'll go ahead and test this step. It's going to respond right away in this scenario and just tell us that it's processing. It's going to process in the background. And then once it's done, it will send that request to the webhook for processing. And then we can see the result here, and we have the concatenated audio file right here. So this is great for longer running processes that aren't appropriate to try to process in a shorter time frame where your automation is quickly moving along and finishing. So that's if you want to process it as a webhook. There's also another way that you can process long running processes or requests if you want it to take place in a single automation like this. In this case here, we're captioning a video and it's going to respond right away, except in this case, we passed an empty string to the webhook URL. That allows the toolkit to process in the background. And then instead of sending that result to another webhook, it's going to respond with its status, and then we can continually check to see if the status is done. And when it is done, we can go ahead and download that file. Otherwise, we can wait a few seconds and then check the job status again. And then when it's done, we can finally download it. So now let's go ahead and test the scenario where it's running in the background and we wait for it to complete. Here we issued the command for caption. Notice it responded right away. We checked the status, and now it is in a loop while it is waiting for that job to be done. And then when it is done, it will go ahead and download the file. So again, this is good if you have a longer running process where you want to run the entire automation in the same automation instead of using the webhook. And there you see it finished. We can actually look at the response and the job status is done. And then it responded back with our captioned video. So there's a ton of different features here. As you can see, there's a few that I also skipped in the beginning, which are there to help you test the Toolkit when you install it to test the authentication and also to test file uploads. And then there's two endpoints here which allow you to see all of the different jobs that the Toolkit is working on. If I click this, it will show us all of the jobs. A lot of these jobs are the ones that we just ran in this demo today. And then you can also check the status of individual jobs. So if I were to grab this specific job ID here and go into this endpoint here and paste it into the endpoint and run the test, here we're going to see the details about that specific job and the response and everything about it. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to install the Toolkit on DigitalOcean. The instructions that I'm giving you are the most easy instructions. Now, there are lots of different ways you can actually deploy this, especially if you're concerned about costs. There are very cheap ways of deploying this. Right now, I'm going to show you the easiest way, but if you're looking for a lot more help on this toolkit, make sure to jump into the No Code Architects community. It's an engaged group of people, and we can answer all of your questions on the NCA toolkit. All right, so now to install the NCA toolkit, I am in the DigitalOcean platform. If you don't already have an account, you'll want to sign up. Once you've created an account, you'll want to create a new project. I already have one here called APIs. I actually already have an NCA toolkit already pre-installed, but I'm going to go ahead and install a new one. So I'm going to come up here to create, and we're going to go ahead and use the app platform, and we're going to create an app. For deployment source, we're going to go ahead and use container image, and we are going to use Docker Hub. For the repository, I'm going to jump over into my community and copy and paste this into that box. I'll link that in the description below, but you could also take a second and copy it from here, Stephen G. Pope / No Code Architects Toolkit with dashes, not underscores. And then for the image tag or digest, you'll just type latest, and then you can leave the credentials alone. Then you'll go ahead and click next. Now, because the name is a bit long, it's going to automatically show an error here. So we have to correct that here. We're going to go to edit, and we're simply going to remove that extra dash here. So now we're good to go. We're going to create a web service. Then we can go ahead and click close. And then for the size here, I'm going to go ahead and increase this to this $50 a month instance. Now, you don't have to create an instance that is this size, but for installation and just getting things going, I find it's easier just to pick something that's a little bit larger so you don't run into issues, but you can always experiment with picking a smaller instance. The size that you pick is going to determine how big of a file you can process and how long it takes. And so just for testing, it's nice to start off with something that we know that works and it's going to process everything fairly quickly. And again, this is the monthly price. So you can install this today and delete it literally 2 hours from now and not pay this entire amount, but it's just a lot easier to get up and running. I'm going to go ahead and move the containers to 1, and then we'll go ahead and close it. For deployment settings, you can leave those alone. For the network, you can leave that alone. Now, we do need to add in a few different variables. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit. Make sure that when you add these, you do it just as I do, and make sure you don't have any spaces before or after the values that you put here. And make sure you're using underscores and not dashes. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make as they're trying to set this up. I'm going to go ahead and type API underscore key. And for testing, I'm going to go ahead and use test 1, 2, 3. This is something that you'll want to change later. We'll go ahead and add another environment variable. Next, we're going to use S3 underscore endpoint URL. Now, in order to get the value for this, we do need to come over to the spaces object storage and create a new space. I'm going to open up a new window just so I don't have to leave where I'm at now and lose all the work I've put in. I'm going to come over to spaces object storage. I'm going to create a new bucket. You can go ahead and leave New York as the default. And then for the bucket name, I'm going to put NCA install demo, and we'll leave it in the project that we created earlier. I'll go ahead and create the spaces bucket. Now from here, I'm going to head over to settings, and I'm going to create an access key. We're going to create full access. You can go ahead and give it a name if you'd like. I'm going to call it the NCA install demo-key. I'm going to create the access key. It's going to create it right here. Now it's only going to show this to you one time, so make sure you don't move away from this before you grab it. First things first, I'm going to grab the URL right here because that was the first variable that we were setting up. Going to come back to our setup here. For the S3 endpoint URL, I'm going to drop that here. Again, just make sure there's no spaces before or after. It'll save you a lot of time and trouble. Add new variable. We'll add the next key. This will be the S3 access key. And then for the value, we'll jump back to our new space and we'll grab the access key here, paste that into the value here in our server. Then we're going to add another variable. In this case, we are going to add S3 secret key. And we'll come back to our space. This time we're going to grab this key here, and we'll drop that value right here. Again, just make sure there's no spaces before or after. We'll save you a lot of time on both the key and the value. Then we'll go ahead and add another variable. This time for the key, we're going to use S3 bucket name. We'll come back to our bucket. We can copy this into the value. Again, make sure there's no spaces before or after on both sides. Then we got one more variable to add. This is going to be the S3 region. And then for this, the value will be NYC3. Again, just make sure there's no spaces before and after. Once you're done, you can come back. Once you have the region, the bucket name, the key, the access key, the endpoint, and the API key, you can go ahead and click close. You can leave this part alone. For the region, go ahead and pick San Francisco, and then you can go ahead and pick a unique name if you'd like. Otherwise, you can use their default. And from there, you can go ahead and create your new app. Now, this is going to take a few minutes to deploy the first time. Go ahead and wait. Every once in a while, I have found that I had to refresh the screen to actually see that it was done. Go ahead and wait till it's done, and then we can move on to the next step. All right, so once you see this, you know your app is live. A couple of things to point out before I show you how to test to make sure it's working. You can always look at the overview here. It gives you a bit of information about your server. You can also check out the insights. This is going to show you the CPU and the memory utilization so that you can detect whether or not your server is overloaded or if something is wrong. You can also check out the runtime logs. You should see something like this at this time. When the API calls are coming through, you will be able to see them here, and you'll be able to monitor how they are operating. And then you also have the console here, which allows you to actually log into your server and type commands, but you probably won't need to use this. And then of course you have the settings for this server. So now in order to test this, what I recommend doing is going to a service called Postman. I'm going to open up a new tab here. I'm going to go to postman.com. You're going to want to sign up for a free account. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. I'm going to use a Google account. And now this is pretty much an empty workspace. Now in the description below, I gave you a link to a Postman URL that will give you access to something that looks much like this. And what this is it's a template to not only help you test to make sure that the toolkit is installed, but it's also a set of pre-made APIs that you can test and explore. So the toolkit does a lot more than just transcribe videos and create SRT files or create captions. It allows you to do a lot with advanced media manipulation, concatenating videos, clipping, cropping, creating thumbnails, adding logos to videos. You can draw text on videos or images. You can transform video into audio. So make sure you explore all the different features that the toolkit will allow you to do. For now, we're going to focus in on making sure that the authentication is correct and that this test endpoint is working correctly. Again, there's a link in the description below. Once you're logged into Postman, you can come up to your browser and drop in that link. You're going to see that version 1 and all the different tests along the left-hand side here. If you come up to the 3 dots here, you will be able to create your own fork. Go ahead and click on that. It's going to ask you to name your fork. Go ahead and do that, and then fork the collection. It's going to load up that new collection here. You can go ahead and expand this and then go ahead and expand the toolkit. These are the 2 endpoints that we need to test just to make sure everything is working as expected. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to environments. Let me expand this a little bit here so we can see everything a little bit better. We're going to come up to environment. We're going to create environment. You can rename it if you'd like right here. You can just type DigitalOcean. Now we're going to add a couple of variables here. One of them is going to be x-API-key. And then for the initial value, you're going to want to put in the test123, which is what we set in our environment variable when we set up the toolkit. So here you're going to type test123. That's going to copy over to the current value. And remember, it's x-API-key, not underscores. And I'm pointing that out because the next one we're going to add it, which is base_URL, is a little bit different. So here we're going to type base_URL. We're going to jump back to our DigitalOcean server. We're going to grab this URL right here, copy link address, come back to Postman. We're going to drop that into the initial value. That's going to copy over to the current value. And then we're going to make sure to save this, because if you don't save it, then it won't register. So make sure you save it. Once you save it, you should be able to come down to the authenticate, and this should now be gray. If for some reason it's still red, then you can always just cut and paste this URL directly into that test here. So you could erase this and just put the URL directly. It's a lot nicer to use the environments because under all of these different examples here, it will use this environment and it will insert that dynamically. Same goes for the headers. If I come to the header here and we have the X API key here, that value is coming through here so that you don't have to cut and paste that into every single one of all of these different examples, which would be a pain. But you can come into the headers here and just type in the value test123, or you could copy that URL directly into this box here. So I'm going to go ahead and test this. We'll click send. As long as you see a success, then you are good to go. If not, then that likely means that either this base URL is wrong or the API key that you set up when you deployed this server is different than what you have set up in this environment variable here. But I'm using the same things that I've told you to use test123, so it should be the same thing as long as you're doing exactly what I'm doing. So once you do the authenticate, again, you click send. As long as you see success, you're good to go. Now all you need to do is to come down to test. Again, you're going to see this as a gray variable as well as in the headers. Now we can go ahead and click send and you should see a success. It's going to give you a test file here. If you go ahead and copy and paste this into your browser, it should download it. If you open that up, here we should see you have successfully installed the NCA Toolkit API. Great job. As long as you're seeing that, you're good to go and you can move on with the video. All right, so now that you've seen how easy it is to install the toolkit, I also want to show you how easy it is to add more features. So again, this is an open source project, so this is totally free. And it's not just me who is building out this tool. There are other contributors that are working on this tool as well. You can also come over here and make your own requests for features in the toolkit. And there are other people that are also submitting new features all the time. Here's a cool feature that Harrison is putting together that is going to take screenshots from a website. So I just want to make this clear that this is not only a free tool, but it's also something that you can make requests to if you want something put into this tool that isn't already there. And me or somebody else could actually add that feature in there for you because it's going to benefit everybody. Now, if you want more help on the toolkit, make sure to jump into the No Code Architects community. We've got a bunch of different courses, including how to launch your AI automation business, a bunch of automation templates that you can download and install. A lot of these use the toolkit you just saw, like this video here that helps you generate AI video plus B-roll and music. There's faceless video generators in here. And we promise to solve 100% of all of our members' tech questions. Plus there's calls with me almost every single day. I hope to see you inside the community. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you on the next one.